I'm just having a little capoeira, what do you call it, reminiscence or something.
Yes.
I miss capoeira, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you get injured and you can no longer play it, well, for me, it's been my hip, and it's ridiculous to think you're gonna try to play. You can go up in the air, but what happens when you come down? I thought I would do something a little bit different today, rather than start reading old newspaper columns. I thought I would like to talk about how a book got started.
Oh.
Or what was the catalyst for a book, or
Any particular book?
the book. The book is called, I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself, but I'll explain a little bit later. The book is called Matador Negro Azucar. Matador Negro Azucar. For those who may not speak as much Spanish as I do, it simply means black bullfighter sugar. Azucar. Azucar. I picked Azucar because so many of our really great athletes have been called Sugar. Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray, so forth and so on. What occurred to me as I thought about it a little bit, and I'm not going to try to wear you out with the whole story, but something really unusual happened during the creation of this book, and I thought it might be interesting to some people who are interested in writing and how things grow out of you organically, so to speak. This book started happening when I was about 15 years old. I'm 86 now, so that happened centuries ago. I was working as a delivery boy at the Drake Hotel in Chicago on the fabulous Gold Coast. Hugh Masekela talks about what it was like to be a trumpet player and a herd boy. He was herding cattle one day and blowing the trumpet the next day. I was a delivery boy, which meant that I had a chance out of the Drake Hotel, for Carnegie Drugstore to be exact. In addition to that, I was also living in a hotel, but the hotel I lived in, called the Alma Hotel, was very, very far different than the Drake Hotel.
Night and day.
Night and day. Very different. I was having a chance to having grown up in Chicago's, I call them slum ghettos, and the distinction people have asked, what's the distinction? Well, it starts off as a ghetto, which is where you're forced to live. In Chicago, it was redlining. Black people couldn't get homes outside of a certain area. And redlining meant that some of the worst elements of your community would come in, the drug dealers, whatever, and create a slum out of it. So, slum ghetto. I was born in one, the west side ghetto, slum ghetto. Moved to the south side. This is taking place on the south side as I talk about it. I'm delivering paregoric and other opioids to well-to-do drug addicts. In my neighborhood, the junkies were just simply people out hustling and trying to do whatever they could to get the next fix. I was astounded to find out that Mr. and Mrs. Trapp, a very wealthy couple, were both paregoric addicts. During the 4 hours that I worked from 4 to 8, I would have, they would order, I don't know, maybe 6, 8 bottles, half-pint bottles of paregoric to get high.
And that's what paregoric does? What is
Paregoric, I had a taste of it, and to me, it was just like a a liquid sedative.
Yeah, okay.
You know, you sit
Comes
around and
in-
you feel very mellow and everything.
Comes in a liquid form like cough
Comes in
drop,
liquid.
cough
They
syrup.
may have pills too. I wasn't experienced. I didn't know anything about pills.
Okay.
But the liquid thing.
Mm-hmm.
The experience of working on the north side in this filthy rich neighborhood as a poor black boy from the south side was kind of a eye-opener. Usually, you know, like, wow. The Drake Hotel faced the lake. The Alma Hotel faced the lake, but it was like two different lakes, you know. I would leave the Drake Hotel thinking about having come up to somebody's door and I'm smelling, what's that smell? It smells like marijuana. Found out it's opium.
Oh my.
I mean, you know, everything was open. Chicago in the times I'm talking about, the 50s, was just wide open. You could do anything, get away with anything, so long as you had the money to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm delivering drugs. I'm discovering life. I was 15. I was going to do Southern High School. I considered myself quite hip and down with all games, you dig. I knew what was happening. I lived on the third floor. In the building I lived in, the Alma Hotel, it was transit. That is to say, it was a brothel on the first and second floor, and reclining pimps and indulgent hoes vacationed on the fourth floor. So, you know, I knew everything. I knew everything. We had a guy working in the kitchen at the Drake Hotel, a baker. It looked like canteen flies, for those who know about the Mexican comedian. And we became good friends. I called myself speaking a couple of words of Spanish. Buenos todos, you know. No, hombre, buenos tardes, you know. So, okay, have it your way. In the drugstore, they were selling condoms. I don't know why, but they put them all in a drawer down on the lower left side and basically left them alone. I got in the habit of borrowing a few condoms to sell, and canteen flies up in the kitchen. The baker became one of my biggest customers. I'm saying to him, wait a minute, man, I thought, I mean, how many, you know, what are you doing? We became friends. And one day he says to me, you know, he called me Kid. Hey, Kid, I got a ticket for this movie down at the World Playhouse. The World Playhouse, famous World Playhouse, built by some great architect, whenever. And I can't go because I got to do the cakes. You know, you want to go see a movie, World Playhouse. Well, yeah. Okay, I get off from work at 8 o'clock. The World Playhouse is within walking distance of the Drake. Well, for some people it was. For me, at 15 you walk, I mean, I ran. I go, look, it's the life and death of Manolete. Who the hell is Manolete? I go in, and it's a documentary of the life of Manolete, the great Spanish bullfighter. Somebody said he had a face as sad as death and nose as big as a rhinoceros, but when he came to the bulls, he came with finesse and silkiness. And I'm sitting there, never saw a bullfight in all my life. In Chicago, they have the biggest beef exchange systems in the whole world. I mean, the stockyards, people don't know that, but to this day, when the wind changes in Chicago, you can smell the stockyards. So I knew what a bull like. I didn't know anything about bulls like these bulls. The Torrio gates open, and this bull charges out of here. It looks like some ancient monster or something, you know, with the big hump, and he comes out into the ring and looks all around. Beautiful documentary. I don't know who made it. He paws the ground, you know, like you challenge hey, you want some of me? You want some of me? And who comes out? Well, they had the sequence, I didn't know it at the time, but the sequential thing was the picadors came out, and what they do is put the pick into the bull's morillo, into the big hump behind the big muscle, to try to tire him out a little bit, because a full-grown bull who is unpunished can lift a car up and throw it over. After that, they bring the banderilleros in. They come in and put the picks in. That's a questionable thing that's been happening over the years. Do they need to have the bandilleros after the picadores? Well, some people say yes, so he's there. And of course, in the third part of the fight, the faena itself, you have the matador come out to do passes, to do various things with the bull to show that he can dominate this animal. There's something medieval about it. I'm looking at the movie, I'm looking around, I'm the only non-Latino in the audience, you know. And Manolete comes out, tall, skinny guy, and who becomes like a Tai Chi master with his cape. He's just leading the bull past him with just, and looking up at the audience from time to time. At the same time, we recognize easily this bull could snare your cojones out if he. That was my introduction to the corrida, Cantinflas. I went around saying, you know, where can I see another bullfight film? Few and far between in Chicago at the time. But I did manage to see enough of them. I saw the life of Luis Procuna, I saw the life of Carlos Orusa, and some. Then I found out that they were broadcasting, I think on our station KMEX on Wednesday night, bullfights from Mexico, from Spain, from Colombia, wherever they have bullfights. I had a friend, and you know, say, hey man, you know, you get that cable stuff. Could I come over and watch the bullfight? What bullfight? I don't know anything about it. Come on, you know. Wednesday night. Funny thing, his mother-in-law was living with him, and she was a very grandmotherly kind of lady who liked to sip a little gin and squirt from time to time, like a lot of time. And they had a boxer who seemed to like television too, who would sit. I go and he tunes a bullfight in for me. It's Wednesday night, I think from like 8 to 9:30 or something like that. The mother-in-law comes in, says, son, what are you watching? Oh my God, that's the bull! And she sat down. And the dogs sat in front of the TV, I crossed their arms, crossed their legs.
Cross, yeah,
Boom. He's looking at the bullfight. And that was the beginning of it. I looked at the bullfight on my friend's TV for about 2 years. And something happened. I think the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals said, no, we don't want to show this. But by then, I can't say I was hooked, but I was very interested in it. I mean, you know, what is this, an art or a sport? They can't, it's not a sport, it's some kind of stuff I didn't understand. I let it go. I'm fast forwarding to my eventual escape from Chicago to California. The catalyst for the whole move was watching the Watts Rebellion on television in Chicago. I had worked 12-hour days at the post office for about 2 weeks, and I was sitting there sipping a half a pint of scotch, bored, disappointed, messed up, and I'm looking at the Watts thing blowing up, like, wow, man, you know, these black people must be mad if they, you know, set their own neighborhood on fire. Well, that's not something we do. I was starting to write a little bit secretly course, I didn't go to writing workshops, I didn't go to poetry bashes and stuff. But I saw something happening there. Somebody was telling on the news, they were talking about Bud Schulberg establishing a Watts Writers Workshop. Watts Writers Workshop. Watts Writers, it just resonated in my brain.
Hmm.
I decided to hop on a plane and come to California to go to the Watts Writers Workshop. It was just about like that. I could get into a lot of other detail,
Right.
but it was just about like that.
Mm-hmm.
I get here, and there I am in the Watts Writers Workshop. I wound up having a wonderful teacher, a man named John W. Block. Well, actually several people. Louise Merriweather, who wrote a book called Daddy Was a Numbers Runner. Very good teacher. John Block, Louise Merriweather, Harlan Ellison, the science fiction writer. I'm doing okay. John W. Block had me rewrite a short story for something almost like 2 years. Odie, a story has promise. But what kind of dog do they own? What kind of dog do they own? This is a certain kind of family. They have a certain socioeconomic status. Certain people with certain economic statuses have certain kind of animals around them. They wouldn't just have a cat, they would have a Siamese blue point. John W. Block. Harlan Ellison was not very much easier, you know, because he was a science fiction guy. He wanted to have all of the science fiction thing. Louise Merriweather, just straight up. She was from the Barbados, I think, really about 5 feet 10, looked like Maya Angelou. And she let you know, no. I was a reader at Universal, and I can tell you right now, the producers don't read anything. They give it to very educated young women, their secretaries, and they read, and they recommend this and that and this and that and this and that. So don't think that you can come through here and slide, because eventually you're going to run into rough sledding. Odie, I think you're a fine writer so far, but you have to prove it to me every time you show me something. I won't take slop.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
John W. Block, for example, you've heard the story before, took a novel that I had written, 400-page novel, I think it was, sat there in front of me in his home in Mandeville Canyon, and said, I've read it, and I think the first 14 pages are really, really good. So, but I think it needs to be reworked. What do you mean, after the first 14 pages? Yes, exactly that. So it was my introduction to rewriting. I rewrote the novel to his satisfaction, and next thing I know, he was taking me to his agent, a man named Stu Robinson. It was called Robinson and Weintraub, right there on Melrose, and suddenly, after 6 years, I had an agent, and I was competent to cope with whatever he called on me to do. Some of the things I wouldn't do, which caused a little bit of friction between us, but it was a wonderful time with Stu Robinson. We both made a nice bit of money. I may always have to I may have to say that I regret not taking on the task of writing a special for Michael Jackson. But at the time, I wasn't into Michael Jackson. I was into Bud Powell, Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, Bird, Mongo Santa Maria, Carlos Patato Valdez. I was into Afro-Cuban music and Santeria music and so forth. And we had a little bit of a distance between each other, but he was my agent for about 4 years. he was my agent long enough to make me enough money for me to trip back and forth to Mexico to the bullfights.
Right.
I went to see Antonio Ordonez in the Tijuana Bull Ring, where some Mexican guy up in the stands, up in the sunny side, we're going to taunt him, you know, when the bullfighter is doing certain fighters, certain things with the muleta, he can put a stick inside the muleta to stretch it out. If he doesn't have that, then the cape may drop in toward him and cause a problem. So this man was challenging him, so see you do it without the stick. Sin pelo, without the stick. Antonio Ordonez took the stick and threw it away and started doing fabulous passes in redondo. He had his book going, the bull going around behind him and in front of him like he had tamed him. Wow. It never occurred to me to do anything but take this bullfight culture in, but not to write about it. Until one day in the 2020, I thought, you know, I've been seeing bullfights for 50 years, 60 years. We have become members of the Los Aficionados de Los Angeles, the bullfight club.
Yes, most definitely still are.
You want to say something about that?
That was my introduction to the point that I got bit by the worm or whatever, to the point that I thoroughly enjoy and miss the meetings. And I hope sometime or another that, you know, maybe later this year, whatever, we can attend a couple of meetings if they have the videos, so that now I'm not afraid to watch the whole bullfight. I used to duck and put my hands up over my face and my eyes to avoid it, but it was a whole new world. I truly
but you know, a lot of people do that early on because we recognize very soon that, wow, that's a bull. The man weighs 150 pounds. Bulls weigh 2 tons, a ton, 1,500 pounds. So that's kind of a natural reaction.
Right.
I didn't know how I could write about it. It certainly was not from a personal point of view. The idea of going and jump into a bull ring and fight a bull was just ate into my nature.
I understand.
You know, like I said, I was down with all games and I was willing to play all things, but I wasn't ready to do that.
Right.
But I decided, you know, I think it would be really interesting to have a bullfight novel about a young man like myself who was introduced to the bullfight by way of seeing a documentary of Manolete, and who says, hey, instead of becoming a boxer or a golfer, I think I'd like to do that. No football for me, no tennis. I think I'd like to become a matador. So I began to make notes and scribble. It took about a year to really convince myself that I was really interested in this enough to do it. When I started doing it, of course, it grabbed hold of me and I did it. I wrote this first novel. It's called Matador Negro Azucar.
Right.
Matador
The
Negro
one you showed
Azucar.
earlier. Right.
Some people say, oh, this is sort of the Obama story. It's about a guy who faces the bulls and gets knocked down and keeps on going. You know, for those of us who can remember what Obama had to go through with the Republican Party in order to get anything done, it's absolutely amazing that the man spent 4 years in the White House and achieved something and then had 4 more years. They were supposed to have killed him. A lot of us. You remember that.
We were all afraid. We were definitely all afraid for him.
We were afraid for him.
Yeah. After having Martin and Malcolm and Kennedys and, so many,
They were going to kill him.
No.
They were going to kill him. Well, fortunately, that didn't happen. I'm sure attempts were made. So, okay, I finished a bullfight book.
Well, before you finished the bullfighting book, this is when the prime reason you're talking about, because it was after you finished the first book, you ended up moving on to the second book. But this gentleman came in on the first book. Okay.
We can mention his name.
Manie Barron.
Manie Barron.
Yes,
well,
literary agent.
This is what it's come down to, because I have to get into how he came into it.
Yes, on the first book.
Oh, on the first book.
Yes, okay. And then later you wrote the second book.
Help me, because
Yes, later you wrote the second book after Bolger, the Matador Bolger talked to you. But yeah, the first book was...
This is the first one.
Yes, this was the first one. And
this is the first one.
okay, and this one was a product of the inspiration from Manie Barron, a gentleman we never met personally or physically.
Well, you jumped ahead of my story.
But
That's
okay,
what I'm trying to tell the story
all right, go ahead, all right, show this one.
I don't. This is the second book.
This is the second book.
And here's how the second book came to be,
Uh-huh.
which is what I'm trying to talk about.
Because you didn't write the first, you wrote the first book first with Manny's help.
You're right. But if you can...
Go ahead.
Spell it. I didn't have an agent, and I was looking for an agent. Your details are absolutely correct all the way through, except for this part. I needed an agent, I felt, for this book. You know,
Right.
it's a big book. It's a big book. You know.
Yes, after you wrote the first one.
Yes. So I'm calling around. Who did I know? Who did I know? I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anybody who would be interested in a book about a black bullfighter from Chicago who decides to escape Chicago and go to Mexico and become a bullfighter. How did he become a bullfighter? Well, he decided to become a bullfighter by jumping into the bull ring as an espontáneo and showing a few cape passes, and wind up being grabbed and held into the clutches of a man named Senor Flores, who was a drug dealer, a cartel dealer, and a head man and all of that. Now, I'm thinking, you know, I gave the book to a person who was a professional bullfighter, who said, well, you need to change so-and-so, you need to do this a little bit, do that. All right. And then you'll have a really fine book. He gave me so many compliments that it was impossible not to do the book. But I'm thinking I still have a few little snags in here. I need to have an agent who might help me. So I wound up calling a man named Greenberg. I believe he lived in Wisconsin, who was had a reputation for taking materials and doctoring them up a little bit and maybe making them palatable to the public.
When was the first book published?
When was it published?
Of course, you were talking to...
Okay, Zola, I'm not aiming for exact,
Oh, okay.
because it can't be that exact. Things happen. Things happen when they do. This is 2013.
Okay, because you started talking to Manny in 2010.
Well, you're stealing my story from
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to get to how it is. I guess.
Okay, go ahead.
I called this guy, Greenberg, says, well...
Marty Greenberg, yeah.
Is
Marty,
that right?
Marty Greenberg.
Is that what his name? Okay,
Yeah.
he's in Wisconsin, right? He says to me, well, I'm not making an effort to do that anymore, but I tell you what, why don't you call this guy? What guy? His name is Manie Barron, New York City. He's an agent, black agent. So I thought, wow, this is icing on the cake. I called him up one day soon after and got him. It was a cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
He says, like, we are already friends, we know each other. So well, I'm on my way to work. I tell you what, I'll call you back later and we will talk about this. Sounds interesting. And that was it. I said, okay, that's the blow off. You know, you've heard that before. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'll call you back later. Da, da, da. A little later, he called me back. He said, okay, what were you talking to me about? Some black bullfighter or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. I don't have all day to talk, so tell me what it's about. And I'm talking, you know, my tongue tied itself up in knots, and finally I was able to say, black bullfighter, Chicago, Mexico.
Yeah, you were very articulate when you spoke to him.
Well,
I remember, I sat in on that conversation.
You're so kind. You're so kind. He says, well, okay, send me a few pages. The agent normally asks, send me 50 pages. Maybe he thought I didn't have 50 pages. I had the whole book. I sent him 50 pages. He was interested. He said, send me the manuscript. And I'm thinking, who is this person?
I like the way he said in an email, can you send me the manuscript? I'm like,
okay, you're handling the cyber part,
right,
so
right,
you were there.
Right, okay, so I thought that was cute. Can you send me the manuscript? I'm like, okay.
Can I send you the manuscript? It'll be there this afternoon.
I'll get on a plane, right?
I'll fly it. So we begin to, the three of us, Zola, Odie, and Manie. He emails to her, you know, tell him to get off his, and do so-and-so, and, you know, I really like the relationship you all had because he saw instantly that you were the person who could furnish me with all of the inspiration I needed, which is to say, you make life for a writer wonderful.
Thank you.
And not many writers can say that about their wives. Sometimes the wife is a little bit pissed off. Why don't you spend more time? You spend more time with the her than you do with me. Gone with the wind.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, we got into it. He didn't know anything about bullfighting. He confessed that right off. But he had worked for, my God, this man had credentials. Let me read you.
Please.
This is Manie Barron.
Ah, yes, indeed.
As you can see, he loves life, and
talk about a special kind of guy. To know Manie was to love Manie, even if you didn't meet
I've been
personally.
reading columns. This is a short column. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read what it is that I stumbled into. Literary agent and former bookseller Emmanuel Joseph Barron, known throughout the publishing industry as Manie, died January 8th from a hemorrhage while being treated for lung cancer at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City. He was 56. Barron began his publishing career in bookselling nearly 30 years ago, working at the Doubleday bookstore at the South Street Seaport in Manhattan. He went on to become a buyer at Golden Lee Book Distributors before moving to Random House as a founding member of the RH telephone sales team. Later, Barron moved to editorial, acquiring titles for what would become the Strivers Row imprint at Random House. After leaving Random House for HarperCollins, Barron rose to become a publishing manager at Olmsted, Harper's African-American imprint. Finally, leaving HarperCollins to join the William Morris Agency. After leaving William Morris, Barron partnered with literary agent Claudia Mensah to form the Mensah-Barron Agency. Barron was experienced in all aspects of publishing, And while he specialized and works by and about African Americans, he was a tremendously popular book professional at home in any setting and brought his formidable intelligence, humor, and warmth to the publication of all manner of books. He is survived by his wife, Gwendolyn R. Nichols, daughter Veronica Grace Nichols Barron, and extended family members. A memorial is planned for February, and more details will be released later. This is the man.
So he died in 2011, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the man who took on the task of offering me advice about what could be done or should be done to improve the quality of a book about a subject he knew nothing about. Within 2, 3 phone calls, I had the impression he knew all about it because he was telling. So, okay, what strain of bulls are these? Okay, Villahona, Mira, Villahermosa. He said, how many different herds are there of bulls from this particular? Actually, there's 6. And the strains, the Miura, for the M-I-U-R-A-S, the Miuras are well known to be killers. For some reason, these bulls have become more sensitive than the other strains, so that when bullfighters fight them, they kill them as fast as they can because
they're intelligent.
They're intelligent. There's this word, they sense that the cape is not the man. They sense that the cape is not what they want to go for. They should go for that other thing. So they've killed more bullfighters than any other bull species, any other bullfighting genres.
Wow.
So we went through that, and he pushed me, and we were heading towards something. We have to understand is that we never met.
I know, but I remember him saying, you talk about the passes and you give the names about the passes, but I have no idea what they are. And so he made you describe several of the bullfighting passes.
The different passes?
Yes. And you did that very well.
Okay, there's certain passes. The large cape that most people see at the beginning of the bullfight is called the capote. It's a large cape. Looks like, to some people, looks like an umbrella. He makes the opening cape movements with that. This particular cape is called the muleta. The muleta is smaller, and like I said, they drape it on a stick.
Okay.
So there's actually two different capes that are used in the course of the bullfight. The opening cape, when the man is opening it with this beautiful cape movement, usually called a Veronica. Veronica, the cape movement, allegedly was named after the woman who wiped the tears from Jesus' eyes on his way to his crucifixion. So the Veronica is used to, in a sense, wipe the bull's face in it. The muleta, the smaller cape, is used to prepare the bull for his eventual death. The passes they can be long and rhythmic and beautiful and flowing, but the end result has to wind up, in a sense, training the bull to be in a certain position at a certain time so that he can be killed. If the bull recognizes that before it happens, the matador is in trouble. This is what I'm going through with Manie Barron. He helped me in every way I can think of saying that someone who is knowledgeable about human nature and so forth. We had exchanges about stuff that had nothing to do with bullfighting, you know, like what was the relationship this guy had with his family in Chicago while he was down in Mexico. What kind of music was he listening to? This was during the time of Thelonious Monk, who came out with Epistrophe. what part did Bird play in his life, and was he listening to music, and da da da. And I realized he was creating a fuller picture of this bullfighter than I had ever thought about. He did it so well. He did it so well that when I finished the book itself, I wound up giving it to a professional bullfighter, and I don't want to mention his name because he hasn't given me permission to do that. But he said in written testimony, he was suffering from cataracts of his eyes at that point, and he had operations. He was to all effects semi-blind. He started reading Matador Negro Azucar. I'm being signaled for the first book. He wound up reading the book, making certain really professional suggestions. For example, in Spain, the Major League bullfight venue is called La Ventas. La Ventas is in Madrid. I was just simply calling it the Madrid Bull Ring. Things like that. He gave me some insight on what the Mexican attitude is toward bullfighting as opposed to the Spanish attitude. The Mexicans see death as a natural consequence of having lived. So the most precious liquid on earth is blood. And it dates back from their, I think, back from their Aztec ancestry, where they sacrificed people every day in order to be assured that the sun would rise. Because the day that they didn't shed blood or pluck a heart out, the sun would not rise. Well, okay, that's a belief. The Spanish, the Spanish had a far different thing from it, about it, which may have something to do with their Moorish ancestry, because as most people know, the Moors who had Spain for something like 800 years influenced them so greatly that most of the Spanish traditions come from Moorish foundations. The belief in a certain kind of nobilidad, a certain kind of honesty. People get wrapped up in the racial components, but I think that has less to do with it than the fact that you had some people who had a sense of being that they inoculated the Spanish with. According to history, the Spanish would run around in loincloths, bear skins, and with them they're savages, like the Britons, like the ancient Anglo-Saxons. The Moors brought wonderful civilization. They brought architecture. Look at the Alhambra. They brought cisterns. They learned how to take water and transport it across cisterns and different places. They had an educational system that was par excellence. It was so great that they fathered the study of mathematics. They invented the zero. I don't want to go off onto that, but this is what my friend the bullfighter came up with concerning Matador Negro, that it need to have these small changes left. He was in no way as consequential toward giving me the finished product as Manie was, but he was instrumental in offering tips. I couldn't tell him that since this was a self-published book, I ran into the problem of dealing with the downside of self-publishing, which is that the people who publish it may just simply not understand the way the words are supposed to be shaped, so they make up what they want to, and you have to correct it later. At the end of the day, which is where we are, I decided to take this session to talk a little bit about a man that Zola Salena and I knew, but never met, who was instrumental in helping me write these books. He really did help me write both of them in a sense, because
it was interesting after you finished the first one, and you took all the information that you'd heard from the bullfighter. You started writing the second one, and every now and then you would say, "Well, what would Manie say about this?" You know, I hear you. Well, yeah, you would say out loud, "Well, what would Manie say about this?" As you wrote the second, fuller version. It was like he, even while he was gone physically from here, he was like looking over your shoulder.
Oh yeah. Even now,
Yeah.
The ideas and the way of approaching things that appealed to me so much. You know, we I think both shared a very African American sense of who we were. We dug the same things musically. We dug the same things culturally. We were not white men in blackface. I don't know where he went to school. Doesn't matter. I do know that the school I came from prepared me to be a proud African American man because of people like Dr. Marcus Burroughs. You know.
Well, and the fact that he said he wanted to take you on. He wanted you to be part of his agent. You know, he wanted to be your agent. And then
he died.
He was a diabetes, heart, well, anyway, he had a series of health problems that were totally unexpected to him. You know, and he had to have chemo and, you know, the shock to the whole world.
When we called to speak to him, and somebody, I think it was his son or his daughter?
His daughter said, "Let me let you speak to my mother," and she told us that he had gone.
He had
gone home.
He had passed. It was,
and you know, it was shocking. It was shocking. Well, because I think you had made the phone call because you came to pick me up from work, and the look on your face as soon as you arrived and you got out of the car, I said, "What happened?" And you said, "Manie died." And I was like, "No,
we don't know. We haven't met him."
Right? I mean, he could not die. He was still alive. Okay, and because of that relationship, it's really hard to even think of having another agent, because though Manie is gone, in a sense, he's still your agent.
He's still my agent.
Yeah.
So look, can I end it on that?
Yes.
Because I think that you said the definitive thing. I've had the opportunity from time to time. All you have to do is reach out to the Writers Guild, which I'm a member, and they'll find you an agent,
right?
Or you'll get an agent. I haven't found anyone who approached his sensitivity, his.
The only one Manie.
Yeah.
There's only one Manie Barron.
This is what we decided to do this afternoon. I hope it may act as a way of understanding what happens when you have someone come into your life who can make a change, who can make you change, who can change you.
Oh, I like he said, "I know you don't want to be told what to do, so I suggest."
But then he said also at one point in one of these emails, "I'm getting ready to come at you." That's with the red pencil. "I'm getting ready to come at you hard and heavy." And all I could say to him, "It takes a good bull to make a good bullfighter. Come on with it."
Yeah.
Come on with it.
That was your last exchange.
Yeah. I really miss him.
We really miss him.
We miss him.
And I know anybody who ever met Manie Barron misses him.
I think that's a good place to end this.
All right. I will end with your website, www.odiehawkins.com. And I pray that there's someone like you in our near future. Okay.
Yes.
See
you tomorrow night.
Surely.